So you want to apply for your Schengen visa, but the process seems just a little bit overwhelming? Trust me, you're not alone. 16% of the people who applied for a Schengen visa in 2023 got rejected. But don't worry, you're not going to be a part of that statistic, because today I'm going to break down the step-by-step process to help you to apply for your Schengen visa the right way. I'm Mimi, welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about travel, food, all-inclusive hotels, just fun. In the last video, I spoke about 5 mistakes that people tend to make when they're applying for their Schengen visa. If you haven't watched that video yet, go check it out. But stick around to the end of this video, because I'm also going to be sharing some really good insider tips that could really boost your chances of approval. And in addition to the tips I'm going to provide in this video, if you want a structured checklist of all the documents you need for your Schengen visa application, in the description of this video, you can find a link to my free Schengen visa application guide. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is choosing the right embassy to apply to. So you're going to apply to the embassy of the country that you're going to spend the most time in. The Schengen visa allows you to travel to about 27 different countries in the Schengen area without having to go through border patrol or needing any other visa. So more often than not, when people travel to Europe, they tend to travel to several different destinations on the one trip. So if you're traveling to, say, Paris, Spain, and Prague, and you're spending 3 nights in Paris, 2 nights in Spain, and 5 nights in Prague, you're going to be spending most of your time in Prague. So you apply to the embassy that manages visa applications for Prague, which is in the Czech Republic. The other scenario is if you're traveling to several countries, but you're spending the same number of nights in each country. So you're spending 3 nights in Spain, 3 nights in France, and 3 nights in Czech Republic. Then you simply apply to the embassy of the country in which you're going to enter Europe first. So if on your trip itinerary, you're going to enter Europe via France, then you apply to the French embassy. If you're going to Europe via Spain, then you apply to the Spanish embassy. And the decision as to which country you enter first is really up to you. It depends on your itinerary. It depends on your preference. You can decide if you want to go to France first, then Spain, then Czech Republic, or you want to go to Czech Republic first, then Spain, then France. That can depend on whatever is convenient to you. It can depend on whatever flights you happen to find. There's no restriction or anything to dictate where you need to enter first. So that part really depends on you. But once you've decided which country you're going to enter first, and if you're spending the same period in each country, then you apply to the embassy of the country that you're entering first. Now, in Jamaica, another important thing to consider is that not all countries have an embassy or a consulate or a high commission in Jamaica. So you find that there are embassies that provide visa application services on behalf of several countries. For example, the last time I went to Europe, I traveled to the Netherlands. I was going to be spending most of my time in the Netherlands, and so I needed to apply for my visa at the embassy of whichever country provides visa application services for the Netherlands, which in this case would have been the embassy of Belgium. So the Embassy of Belgium provides visa application services for several countries, and the Netherlands is one of them. So given the Netherlands does not have an embassy in Jamaica, I needed to apply for my visa at the Belgian embassy. There are several other countries that the Belgian embassy provides visa application services for, including Luxembourg, Norway, Sweden, and usually that information is available on the embassy's website. I've also included a list of the popular embassies in Jamaica and the countries that they service in the free Schengen visa application guide that's linked in the description of this video. So you've determined what embassy you need to apply at based on where you're traveling to. Now you need to gather the documents that you're going to need in preparation for your application. The document requirement is pretty standard across the Schengen embassies, but I'll give you a brief idea of exactly what you'll need. Each embassy website will have an application form that you need to complete. So you need a completed visa application form. You need your passport, and your passport needs to be valid for at least 3 months after your return date. So if you're leaving on July 1 and you're coming back on July 14, your passport needs to be valid for at least 3 months after July 14. You need passport photos, and bear in mind the passport photos for the Schengen area has different dimensions than the passport photos for example, if you're applying for a visa at the American embassy. So if you already have passport photos that you had taken for the typical American embassy application, you can't use those. You're going to have to redo those passport photos and ensure that when you go to that photographer, photo studio, photo company, whoever it is, that you indicate to them that you need it for the Schengen visa application. They should know what the dimensions are, but that information you can also find on Google. It's also included in my premium Schengen visa application guide, but you can definitely find that information on Google. Just bear in mind that the size of the photos, the dimensions of the photos are a bit different from that of the American embassy. You also need proof of financial means. So that means you're going to need to provide bank statements, and your bank statements need to indicate that you have enough funds to be able to cover your trip. A good rule of thumb is $100 per day, but those funds also need to be able to cover your flights, your accommodation, everything that you're going to need. And definitely watch the previous video about 5 mistakes that people make when they're applying for the Schengen visa for some key considerations that you need to make in this regard. Next up, you need your travel itinerary. You're going to need to show the embassy exactly where you're going, what you're going to be doing, where you're staying, your flight information, your accommodation information, etc. So you need a full summary of your itinerary, as well as finally, you need travel insurance. And travel insurance, according to the Schengen visa requirements, is very specific. That insurance coverage needs to provide at least 30,000 euro for emergencies. There are actually some online companies that provide affordable travel insurance, and I've provided a few options in my premium Schengen visa guide, which you can also find in the description of this video. Now, bear in mind that embassies can be very strict. So if you're missing even one document from your application, you could get denied, and you really don't want to run that risk, right? Some embassies are lenient enough to reach out and ask you to provide additional documents at a later date. But again, my approach is try and get everything right the first time. And I know it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's so many things that you need to consider and so many documents that you need to gather together. But that's why I created both the free Schengen application guide and a premium guide for you, which includes fully editable checklists and templates for your cover letter, for your proof of funds letter, for your travel itinerary. So you really don't have to stress about what to write or how to write the letters and the itineraries, etc. It's all done for you. Now, in addition to your bank statements, proof of financial means can also be your job letter, a letter from your employer indicating your position at that company, how long you've worked there, and noting also that you are approved to go on vacation on the days that you have set out in your itinerary. If you are a business owner or self-employed, you may have some business registration documents that you can also provide as proof of financial means. All right, so you know what embassy you're applying at. You have your documents ready. Now you need to ensure that you fill out that visa application form correctly. In addition to your visa cover letter, your application form is your first impression. You want to be clear, error-free, and complete. Do not leave any sections blank. And when I say don't leave any sections blank, don't leave any section that applies to you blank. So if there's a section about spouse and you don't have a spouse, obviously that doesn't apply to you. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about any section that applies to you, you need to complete. So go through that application form step by step and read through all the pages before you submit to make sure that everything is complete and everything is accurate. Ensure you have no mismatched name or passport number or date of birth. These are very easy mistakes to make, right? And we're all human. We can leave off a zero and misspell something just out of sheer accident, for lack of a better word. But the key is to read through everything and ensure that all the details on your application form matches with your passport and any other document that you're submitting. Also ensure that your travel dates are accurate on the form, as well as matches with what you have in your travel itinerary. So again, double check, triple check, 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 check. So now you have your documents ready, your visa application form is complete. By the way, some embassies, maybe all, not sure, but some embassies actually have the application form on their website so you can complete it electronically, as well as you may have to print it and take it in with you. Now you need to schedule your visa appointment early. I've heard that some embassies have a 1 to 2 month waiting period. So please do not wait until the last minute to book your appointment, especially if you have in mind set on a particular date that you want to travel. You don't want anything to delay your travels and cause you to have to reschedule and push back your dates and things like that. So please do not wait until the last minute to book your appointment. And here's another very important tip. Now, I will admit, I don't know if this applies to all Schengen embassies, but certainly the ones that I've been to, you cannot apply any earlier than 3 months before your travel date. Been there, done that. The thing about me is that I'm very organized and I tend to do things way in advance. I like to plan my trips like a year in advance, right? So I've been there where I started applying for my visa online and reached out to the embassy and they were like, no, miss, it's a bit too early. You need to wait a couple of months and apply 3 months before your intended travel date. So you can't apply any earlier than 3 months before or 90 days before and no later than 2 weeks before your expected travel date. So when I say apply early, I mean book your appointment or start applying 3 months, minimum 3 months before the date that you would like to travel. My recommendation is 3 months, but things happen, life happens. So I would say no later than 2 to 3 months before your travel date is when you should have started applying for your visa and book your appointment. You want to ensure that you can get an early appointment, especially if it's an embassy that is popular like the French or the Spain embassy, or if it's during peak period. And some embassies on their website will tell you what their peak periods are. So bear that in mind. When it comes to booking your appointment, each embassy has a different process. There may be an online process for some, and others may require that you book the appointment directly with them. So the embassy website will also have that information. Now you're going to show up for your appointment early, at least 15 minutes before the appointment time. This is where you're going to submit your documents. You're going to take your fingerprints and ask you some questions. Now, when you're attending your interview, you want to dress professionally. First impression matters, right? And how you look matters. Appearance matters. So funny enough, the times that I've applied for a Schengen visa up to now have been days when I was also working in office. So I would have been in my office attire. But even if I wasn't working, I would actually wear something that looks similar to office attire, business casual. You want to look professional. During the interview, be confident, be honest. Don't be nervous. There's actually no reason to be nervous, but I can understand why someone might feel a bit anxious going into a visa application interview, but there really is no reason to be nervous. You just need to be honest, be clear in the way you speak, answer your questions clearly. Don't over-explain. Just answer your questions directly and you'll be fine. So you'll get questions like, why are you traveling? It's my first time traveling to Europe and I'm going to do some sightseeing, right? Simple, straight to the point. How will you fund your trip? I'm going to be using my savings from my salary as well as I have a credit card. Or my friend who lives in France is going to be providing accommodation for me. If you do have someone who lives in Europe who is perhaps sponsoring you or sponsoring a part of your expense. Where do you work? I work at the General Hospital of Kingston. I'm a practical nurse, right? The key is to be clear and to be truthful in your answers. You may find that the embassy officer may ask two very similar questions or may ask the same question in a different way. Just make sure that your story matches up. I mean, if you're truthful, then there's nothing to worry about. Just don't be taken off guard and don't be intimidated. Just stay calm and answer your questions clearly. I've actually provided a list of some of the most commonly asked interview questions in my premium guide, as well as some recommendations for answers that might be ideal. So again, the link is in the description. I'll also leave it in the pinned comment so you can check that out and I think it will be helpful. So you've submitted all of your documents, you've done a really good interview, and after your appointment, you'll need to wait about 10 to 15 days to get a response from the embassy. Some embassies allow you to track your application online. And also, if there are additional documents that the embassy requires, they may reach out to you via email or phone call to ask you to provide those documents by a particular date. It is important that you submit those additional documents by the date that they've requested. And if your visa is approved, congrats, you're good to go. You're off to Europe. By the way, if you've made it this far, comment Europe, here I come down below. But if your application is denied, don't panic. You can actually appeal or just reapply. Now, I really believe that if you follow all of these tips, pretty sure that you will get your visa approved. But if you want to maximize your chances of approval, my premium visa application guide walks you through the entire process step by step. All right, so let's recap the visa application process. 1. Choose the right embassy depending on where you're traveling to first or where you're spending the most number of nights on your trip. 2. Gather all of your documents together. Use a checklist in the free Schengen guide to help you to account for all the items that you're going to need to submit. 3. Complete your application form. Ensure that nothing is left blank and that all the information matches your passport and the other documents that are going to be included in your application. 4. Book your visa appointment and remember, apply for your visa at least 2 to 3 months before the date that you intend to travel. Well, maximum 3 months because you can't apply any earlier than that. 5, attend the interview, dress professionally, be polite, be clear, concise with your responses. And 6, point A, if the embassy requires any additional information, provide those additional documents by the date that they've requested. And point B, wait to get a response with their decision. If you still have questions about the process, drop them in the comments. I will aim to respond to everyone. And don't forget, if you want a free checklist to simplify the process we just went through, download my free Schengen Visa guide. And if you need templates, sample letters, and insider strategies, my premium guide has everything you need to boost your chances of approval. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. And of course, any questions you have about the process or any other question about applying for a Schengen visa, you can leave that in the comments. And subscribe for more videos like this. Watch the other videos in the series and stay tuned for more to come. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next one, take care.